This is the Ramana Maharshi Self-Knowledge Satsang, a time for self-reflection and self-inquiry. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. I'm Richard Clarke, hosting this satsang. I'm a seeker like you, sharing what we love. I've been blessed with years of deep teaching. I bring this to you with this satsang. The background image today is Guhai Namah Shivaya Temple. Let me get out of the way so you can see it. This is an old photograph. Ramana stayed here in 1899 before he moved further up the hill to Virupaksha Cave. This is where, in 1902, Ramana answered the questions given to him by Shiva Prakasham Pillai that was later to become the book Who Am I?, which is the subject of these satsangs. Here are some photos that we took of this place in 2009. We're climbing up the hill to the temple. You can see its tower rising above us. This is the entrance to the temple with our guide, Saran. This is the temple, and the altar and shrine are to the right. This is a stone carving depicting Guhai Namah Shivaya, who was a sage in ancient times. This is the stairway up to the meditation cave. And this is the shrine, the altar in the meditation cave, where there is usually a figure of a god. Here there is a mirror reminding you of the divinity that you are. Here is Saran swinging on a root hanging down from the banyan tree, like he did as a boy living on this hill. And this is a giant rock that is split apart. Locals say that when Guhai Namah Shivaya died and was buried, he had so much spiritual energy that when it was released from his head, it split this rock in two. So now on to this week's reading from Ramana's Who Am I? This week we're on paragraph 28. These are Ramana's words. God and the Guru are not really different. They are identical. He that has earned the grace of God shall undoubtedly be saved and never forsaken, just as the prey that has fallen into the tiger's jaws will never be allowed to escape. But the disciple, for his part, should unswervingly follow the path shown by the Master. Now, how could God and Guru be different? The Guru stands in identity with God, or with the absolute Brahman, or whatever you want to call this God. In this identity, there is no separation between God and the Guru, nor between the Guru and the seeker. Grace comes through surrender, surrender of the ego to the teacher. This surrender brings the seeker to a deeper practice. Who is the teacher? God, Guru, and Self are all of the nature of the teacher, and this surrender is really to the Self, your highest being. Ramana says that those who receive Guru's grace will never be forsaken. What should the seeker do then after receiving the grace of Guru? Just follow the instructions of the teachers. Do not bring ego back into the picture, such as by choosing to accept a part of the teaching and practice while rejecting some other part. If this is done, you are responding to ego, not to the teacher. Ego as a teacher will not bring the seeker to self-realization, since self-realization is a matter of moving the seeker's identity past the apparent reality of the ego to the deeper identity of the self. My own experiences with grace is that it is always there, and you just need to be open to it. Now some ideas for practice. Reflect. Where is the teacher, the Guru? Is the Guru someone outside of you, or is it in your heart? In non-duality, how can the Guru or God be separate from who I am? Nome says that the Guru pushes the seeker from outside and pulls the seeker from inside. Where is grace? Is it something that comes and goes, or is it always there? Maybe without our noticing. Now, on to the videos for this week. First is from Swami Sarvapriyanda, and he will talk about grace in spiritual practice.
So basically, I feel above all, grace is what plays a major role. But this seems a little bit mystery to me, because why is it some people, like if everything is Brahman, why is it like some people are more attracted? That itself shows that they have a lot of grace, right? So for example, when I try to help my friends maybe who are struggling, like by giving whatever knowledge I have or experience, they show no interest. 100 times I repeat, 1,000 times I keep repeating, no interest. So I really want to do whatever I can.
Right.
Like my immediate family member, my brother is like, no, I don't.
All right, he's going to be listening on this, remember.
So I am like, what is that mystery?
Yes.
that makes one attracted and others not.
What is the role of grace, first of all? Why
Yeah.
some are attracted, why others are not?
Yeah.
Krishna asks, Arjuna has these questions, If it is so easy, then why aren't more people in this path? Why aren't more people realizing it? Now, first of all, about grace. Sri Ramakrishna used to say the wind of grace is always blowing. God's grace is always there. The Guru's grace is always there. Then how do we take advantage of it? He gives the example of, he used to live near the bank of the river Ganga. And there would be boats sailing up and down the river. Even now there are. So he said, the wind of grace is ever blowing. Raise your sail. The sail which will catch the wind. What is the sail? Make some effort. Don't say that I cannot make any effort. Because you do make efforts for everything. Imagine how much you work for money, for family, for entertainment. How much we work, how much effort we make uncomplainingly for years and years of our life. So why can't you make a little effort for enlightenment? You can make an effort. The more effort you make, that's the raising the sail. The more grace will come and catch your sail and push your boat along faster. Now, why are not people more interested? And if you tell them why are they not interested, it just requires a certain level of evolution. You cannot force people into it. It's difficult enough to force oneself along this path. Sri Ramakrishna used to put it very simply. Shomoy na hole hoy na. Unless the time is ripe, it will not work. Does that mean you have to stop saying these things? Say it, but don't become a bore. Yeah? If you say 100 times, 1,000 times, you're going to, instead of helping people, people might be repelled by it. Be intelligent about it. If somebody is interested, share it. If somebody is not interested, wish them well. And always the best thing is to help people along their own track and try to give them an upward push. That's all you can do. You can pray for them. And you can help them in whatever way they're going, if you can help. So that's what you can do. As time comes, we evolve. Going deeper, why is it that so few people seek enlightenment? Aurobindo, Rishi Aurobindo, his answer is very interesting. He says everybody is seeking enlightenment. There is no exception at all. What do you mean? Are all those people out in Manhattan, millions of people, are they seeking enlightenment? They are seeking it in their own way. We are all seeking it in our own way. We are seeking happiness. We are trying to overcome misery. And the problem is, we are somehow convinced it lies outside us. The one thing that Gaudapada again and again wants to show is that what you are seeking lies within you. Within you means in your own experience. What lies within you? Subtler than the body is the mind. Subtler than the mind is consciousness, you yourself. It lies there. But we don't focus inwards. Our minds and senses are turned outwards and we are convinced it lies somewhere out there. Though nobody till today has reported that I have got perfect satisfaction from money or relationships or name and fame. Nobody. Nobody reports that. Some pleasure is there, but nothing permanent and lasting. And yet we pursue it. People ask, no, but this is all that there exists. Is it possible at all to get permanent happiness, completely overcome suffering? Is it at all possible, or is it a pipe dream? It is possible. So many enlightened people have reported this. What suffering does Sri Ramakrishna report? What suffering does Vivekananda or Holy Mother or Ma Sharada or Ramana Maharshi or others, what suffering do they report? No, they have transcended suffering. One sign of being enlightened is you don't complain or grumble anymore. So people are seeking the same thing which a spiritual seeker is seeking. But they are seeking it in an unwise way. They're seeking it in the wrong place. In the most evident, it's not their fault, it's most evident, it's right there outside. A young person sees the world in front of him or her, graduating from college. Here is the world, career and relationships and name and fame and achievement and travel and entertainment and enjoyment. Grab it with both hands. And Sri Ramakrishna says, yes, go ahead. Grab it with both hands, but be intelligent about it. Ask your mind, what did I gain from this? And don't keep repeating the same thing. One must go ahead. I saw this. Sri Ramakrishna he once wanted an expensive shawl. And he asked, that was like the height of luxury at that time. So Mathur Babu, who provided him with these things, he got an expensive shawl, which was very expensive in those days, from Benares, and gave it to Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna put it on and walked around happily, and he told his mind, see, this is the intelligence part of it. He told his mind, oh mind, look, this is what people call an expensive shawl, and they put it on and become proud and forget God. The moment he said this, he couldn't bear it anymore. He took out the shawl and threw it on the ground. And he was not satisfied with that. He spat upon it, and then he jumped on it. And then he was about to set fire to it when Mathur Babu came and rescued the poor shawl. Now that is the intelligence part of it. That one must go ahead, don't stop there. That is why people don't. Always try to help others, spiritually, if not spiritually, if possible, in any other way, emotionally, materially, whatever, and try to give them an upward push. Person is too lazy and just taking life easy. Seems to be happy. That's not happiness, that's tamas. Then give it an upward push. What would be an upward push for a tamasic person, a lazy person, inert person? Ambition, energy, be up and doing. I mentioned Swami Akhandananda. He was extremely active. It was very difficult to stay with him. Ordinary people would find it impossible to stay with him. He was like a volcano of energy and dynamism. And he couldn't bear laziness and slovenliness. There was this novice, a brahmachari, who, as it is the custom in India, in the afternoon, hot afternoons, we all take a siesta in India. So he was nicely enjoying a nap. And Akhandananda chanced upon him and said, what is this? You've become a monk and you're sleeping in the daytime. Shame upon you. Do something. Even if you cannot do spiritual practice, he says, go and read geography or something like that. He uses geography. go read geography. Doesn't mean geography, anything. If one is lazy, activate, become artistic, become intellectual, take up a hobby, culture, develop. That leads to sattva, a refinement of the mind. From refinement of the mind comes spiritual seeking. One Swami told a young man who had come to become a monk, he said, first become a gentleman, then you can become a monk. What he meant was a certain amount of cultivation, achievement in life. Another Swami, a tough old monk, whenever young men would come to, I saw that happening, would come to become a monk, he would say, what do you want? Well, what have you come here for? I have come here to give up, renounce everything. Sannyasa means renouncing everything. And he would say, what have you got to renounce that you're going to renounce? The Buddha was a prince. He renounced a kingdom. What are you renouncing?
And next is Rupert Spira, and Rupert is talking about grace is a pull from happiness.
Question I have is how much of my transcendence or anybody's transcendence dependent upon grace versus personal and interest from, say, the separate self?
It's 100% grace.
100% the result, but does the personal interest...
It's 100% grace. The person does nothing.
Well, I agree. I mean, in my experience, my experiences that were super normal, put it that way, came when I never was looking for any of it.
Yes.
And now, by the way, I come and I try to cultivate this process, and that's not grace. That seems like it's more separate self saying, well, you need to do this or that.
No, let me explain just what I mean when I say it's 100% grace. When our essential nature is consciousness without limits, which is complete in itself. It knows no lack. And in its own experience of itself, it is ever present. So there is no fear of death or disappearance. So consciousness is knowing of its own being, is what's called happiness, fulfillment, peace. Now, when our own being seems to be veiled, and when the water seems to be confined inside the bottle, then our true nature is veiled, and the peace that is inherent in our true nature is veiled. Therefore, by definition, the finite consciousness, or the separate self, is a position of unhappiness, because its true nature of infinite consciousness seems to be missing or veiled. Therefore, the separate self, by definition, is seeking happiness. In fact, that's one way we could define the separate self, as the search for happiness. So the search from the point of view of the separate self, its search for happiness is something that it does. Because the separate self believes that it is a separate self, that can do things and desire things, and etc. In fact, there is no separate self. The seeking that the separate self feels that is its own desire is in fact the pull, the gravitational force of consciousness pulling the separate self back into itself. That's what grace is, the gravitational pull from happiness exerted on the illusory self. From the illusory self's point of view, that feels like the desire for happiness. It's not the desire for happiness, it's the pull from happiness that is being exerted on it. That is grace. So everything the separate self feels that it does or desires is not in fact the separate self doing anything. It is consciousness's own desire to be divested of its limitations. From the point of view of the separate self, that feels like the desire, I want to be happy, or I want to be enlightened, or I must do such and such. And that's fine for the separate self to do that. But ultimately the separate self doesn't do anything. It's being reeled in by consciousness.
We're surprised by consciousness.
And sometimes it's surprised, but sometimes the separate self feels that it's walking towards consciousness. That's fine. Just leave the separate self with that illusion. If the separate self feels that it's walking towards consciousness, that's fine. Just keep walking. If it feels like you have to make an effort to meditate, then or to whatever it is, then make the effort. That's how it seems from the point of view of the finite self. The effort the separate self feels that it is making is in fact its response to consciousness reeling it in.
I just want to make sure that I gave the right question, and that is that some remarkable things happened quickly in my life, and I certainly wasn't looking for anything like that to happen. And since then, it's a very different kind of life. Of course, nothing will be the same.
Okay, but even this remarkable and unsolicited event, which was, as it were, a direct intervention of consciousness in the life of the apparently separate self, is no less grace than the subsequent efforts that the apparently separate self feels that it has to make in order to reclaim that experience.
I would agree with that, but I'm just saying that then to implement this idea that living a life based upon, say, the discipline of so many hours of meditation and so forth and so on, none of that preceded certain experiences that kind of locked me into doing the thing.
Yes.
that I tend to do to seemingly support consciousness in the process of the continual evolution, say. And sometimes I wonder that, because it looks to me, not coming from your point of view, but from my limited point of view, which is all limited points of view, but it looks like some people are coming to join the party or to escape something when their approach to consciousness. It's almost like it's fashionable sometimes. And I don't know if those people make progress or not.
Say that again.
I don't know how their progress works.
No, but the bit before, I think I didn't
It's
understand.
kind of fashionable sometimes, particularly in this country, to be hip to the idea of say, yoga, for instance.
Yes, but that may be so. But everybody seeks happiness. All 7 billion of us seek happiness. The search for enlightenment is just the final furlong of the search for happiness. It's the same search. When most people seek happiness, they seek it through an object, or a substance, or a state, or a relationship. The search for enlightenment is just the same search for happiness, but having realized that no object, state, or relationship can give us what we want. It's the same search. Yes, the search for enlightenment is a refinement of the common search for happiness, but it's the same desire, it's the same force of attraction being exerted from the true self, which is happiness itself, on the separate self that most 7 billion people feel themselves to be. It's the same search. Now, if somebody thinks they're going to get happiness through yoga, through drugs, through whatever, the deep motive, it's not really yoga they want. If they thought that yoga would make them miserable, they wouldn't do yoga. In other words, they wouldn't do yoga. Nobody does yoga for its own sake. People do yoga for the happiness that they believe will be derived from it. People don't have intimate relationships for their own sake. They have intimate relationships for the happiness and the love they feel will be derived from it. That's, in other words, happiness is the only thing that people desire for its own sake. Nothing else is desired for its own sake. Everything else is desired for the happiness that we believe will be derived from it. And in other words, everybody is only seeking happiness. There are 2 possibilities in life, either to seek happiness or to be happy. That's it. Those are the possibilities. And if we're not happy, then whether we realize it or not, we are seeking happiness. Every waking hour, we are seeking happiness. That is the motive behind all our actions, all our thinking, feeling, everything. Everyone's engaged in the same search. What we're speaking of here is a very refined form of that search, because we have understood that no object, nothing in the realm of the body-mind world can deliver happiness.
Well stated, as I expected. and I agree. But it's just odd how it all happens, the play, the way it unfolds.
It's different for different people.
Yeah.
Some people, they have some realization or opening or awakening completely unsolicited, without any prior interest in these matters. Some people have to become suicidally depressed before they, and hit rock bottom before there is a kind of surrender and an opening up. And some people don't suffer deeply. Everyone suffers to a certain extent, but some people don't have to suffer deeply before the question arises in their mind: what is the purpose of life? Where can happiness be found? What am I truly? And then they begin to ponder and explore their experience. It can happen in so many ways. And all of those ways are grace, because the search for happiness is in fact not a search for happiness, it's a pull from happiness. Everybody feels this pull from happiness. All 7 billion of us.
Have you met people who seem to be attached to pain and unhappiness?
They're only attached to pain because they believe it will make them happy.
That's a stretch, but I'll accept it.
No, but sometimes people think that suffering is a virtue, but they only suffer because ultimately they think it'll bring them happiness. The only reason people desire God is because they believe that when they find God, it will bring them happiness. Who would search for God if they thought the finding of God would make them miserable? Nobody. The search for happiness is higher than the search for God. If any of us thought that enlightenment would make us miserable, would anyone seek enlightenment? I wouldn't. No, why do we seek enlightenment? Because we've tried everything else, nothing else made us happy. Enlightenment is the last option. It's not enlightenment that people seek, it's happiness. Happiness is the highest desire. It's the purpose of human life. And because it's the purpose of human life, it's what people desire above all else. Peace or happiness or love, they're synonymous in this context.
And finally, we will hear from Nome, and this is from 2018 Guru Purnima's celebration, and he will be reading words from Sri Ramana and Nadgaga's praise of sage Ribu from the Ribu Gita. Now, Nome in this video, his voice is rough. Nome has had Parkinson's for more than 20 years. I think it's amazing that he can still talk and give satsang every week. I had 2 other friends with Parkinson's, and they were both dead from complications long before 20 years. Here is Nome.
A disciple asked Sri Bhagavan, "What is Guru Kripa, grace of the Guru? How does it lead to self-realization?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "Guru is the self. Sometime in all his life, a man becomes dissatisfied with it, and not content with what he has, he seeks the satisfaction of his desires through prayer to God, etc. His mind is gradually purified until he longs to know God, more to obtain his grace than to satisfy his worldly desires. Then God's grace begins to manifest. God takes the form of a guru and appears to the devotee, teaches him the truth, and moreover purifies his mind by association. The devotee's mind gains strength and is then able to turn inward. By meditation it is further purified, and it remains still without the least ripple. That calm expanse is the self. The Guru is both external and internal. From the exterior, he gives a push to the mind to turn inward. From the interior, he pulls the mind towards the self and helps in the quieting of the mind. That is Guru Kripa. There is no difference between God, Guru, and the self. God, who is immanent, in his grace takes pity on the loving devotee and manifests himself according to the devotee's development. The devotee thinks that he is a man and expects a relationship as between two physical bodies. But the Guru, who is God or the Self incarnate, works from within, helps the man to see the error of his ways, and guides him on the right path until he realizes the self within. The disciple asked, "What should the devotee do then?" Sri Bhagavan responds, "He has only to act up to the words of the Master and work within. The Master is both within and without, so he creates conditions to drive you inward, and at the same time prepares the interior to drag you to the center. Thus he gives a push from without and exerts a pull from within, so that you may be fixed at the center." You will know in due course that your glory lies where you cease to exist. In order to gain that state, you should surrender yourself. Then the Master sees that you are in a fit state to receive guidance, and he guides you. The devotee surrenders himself to the Master, and it means that there is no vestige of individuality retained by him. If the surrender is complete, all sense of self is lost, and then there can be no misery or sorrow. The eternal being is nothing but happiness. That comes as a revelation. And the disciple asked, "How can I obtain grace?" Sri Bhagavan replies, "Grace is the self. That also is not to be acquired. You only need to know that it exists." The sun is brightness only. It does not see darkness. Yet you speak of darkness fleeing on the sun's approach. So also the devotee's ignorance, like the phantom of darkness, vanishes at the look of the Guru. You are surrounded by sunlight. Yet if you would see the sun, you must turn in its direction and look at it. So also, grace is found by the proper approach you make, though it is here and now. Daga said to Ribu, "Glory to you, my Sadguru, who has with natural ease carried me across the originless ocean of the sorrow of worldly existence in which I was submerged by the ferry of knowledge to the far shore of the immemorial Supreme Brahman. Glory to you, my Guru, who has inspired me, submerged in several severe sorrows, thinking that I am the perishable body, into realizing that I am the afflictionless Supreme Brahman, and conferred undivided bliss on me. Glory to you, my Sadguru, who has taught me that all is the undivided Supreme Brahman, and that I am, and removed all doubt, such as this world is real and I am insentient. Glory to you, my Sadguru, who has, by conferring the worthy, undivided, supreme knowledge on me, long submerged in illusion and in the whirl of thought, that the erroneous path of action would enable me to reach the goal, made me verily that itself. Glory to the Guru of the nature of the undivided Absolute, who has appeared as an embodiment of grace, and who has taken me into your grace. Glory to the Supreme Guru, who is eminently fitted to be the rare refuge in all the varieties of worlds. Glory to the Guru, who is blemishless, partless, peerless, and pervasive without a pause. Glory to the Guru, who is the Supreme Shiva, the higher than the highest, the Supreme Self, the Supreme Brahman. Glory to you, Sadguru, the blemishless, shining as the originless, undivided nature manifest. Glory to you, Sadguru, the taintless, undivided supreme knowledge. Glory to you, Supreme Guru, who, transcending the taintless knowledge, tower as the changeless. Glory to you, Supreme Guru, the realized, the equanimous, the totally non-attached. Glory to the Guru, who is a mass of existence, consciousness, bliss. Glory to the Supreme Guru, the motionless, the peaceful. Glory to the Guru, the eternal, the attributeless. Glory to the Supreme Guru, the taintless. Glory to the Guru, the pure, infinite expanse. Glory to the Supreme Guru, pervasive as that which is subtle. Glory to the Guru, the perfectly full and non-dual. Glory to the Supreme Guru, the undivided. honored Guru, with the sublime knowledge beyond comprehension, by your compassion, small-minded I have overcome my littleness and have grown to be the great, undivided, complete, perfect fullness without separate identity. By obtaining this hard-to-get audience of yourself, I have obtained all there is to be obtained in this birth. By the rare relationship with your grace, I have become one who has successfully fulfilled all that is to be done. My guide, of the words that you and your grace have bestowed, I have taken up for reflection one of the statements of certitude that you have uttered. Thoroughly effacing all attachment and holding fast to supreme bliss, I have become the nature of the Supreme Brahman. What shall I say of your compassion that has removed all my worldly sorrow and conferred undivided bliss? There is not an iota of doubt in what has been said. How shall I describe this greatness of yours, revered Guru?
And now for some meditation. Breathe in and breathe out, and notice the breath as it comes in, as it goes out. Take long, slow breaths. Notice in the pause between breaths where an ancient text says, one small self vanishes. Now inquire, investigate within yourself. Can you feel the grace of the universe within yourself? Like consciousness, it is always there. Can you feel it now within? Let this grace fill you. Feel happiness rise from within. And ask yourself, who am I? What is the nature of my existence? Am I separate from this grace? All right. Now we'll close with a chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you for watching today. If this satsang was of interest to you, I have more, a free book site, a YouTube site, and my blog. The URLs will be on the screen next. And these satsangs will continue in the coming weeks with this series based on the Ramana Maharshi book, Who Am I? Thank you for letting me share this teaching with you.